So let's go ahead and get started. I'll just kind of start a couple more minutes of saying hello and introductions, and then in 2 or 3 more minutes we'll get started with the actual program. So this is a live training. It's just it's similar to if I were going to be doing a class at a convention or something like that. It's probably going to be somewhere between 30 minutes and an hour and 15 minutes. I'm not exactly sure. I have a bunch of slides that I'm going to go through, and I have prepared the material, but I haven't timed it. So we're just going to take as long as it needs to take. And I am open to answering any questions that you have. That's why I have it over there on the Facebook, the YouTube channel. So you can leave questions in the live chat. I'll also be happy to answer questions afterwards in the Facebook group so that I can comment more thoroughly instead of answering in a video. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get started here in just a minute. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Corey. I'm Corey Potter, and I am the founder of Fuel Your Photos. I would think that most of you have probably seen the Facebook group and have had some experience or exposure to Fuel Your Photos, because that's where most of you signed up for this training. So you probably know a little bit about that, but my goal with Fuel Your Photos was to just create a place where I could talk about search engine optimization and online marketing and websites for photographers in a way that was backed up by research and by solid information, because I was finding that on the internet in a lot of different groups that I was in, people were just saying they were giving some really bad advice on search engines and how they worked. And it's not quite as common as 2 years ago when I started to see that. I'm starting to see people give a little bit better advice these days. But still, I like to challenge things and test things. And sometimes the best advice that you can find online doesn't necessarily apply to the photography industry. And so I like to be very specific about what's working for photographers right now, and how can we test that, and how can we see, how can we work together to see what's working for other people and how we could make that work for everyone. So that's kind of the heart behind Fuel Your Photos, is like, let's work as a community to figure out what's working in online marketing and websites and search engine optimization for photographers. And also, I really want to start taking these complicated topics and making them easier, because search engine optimization is not exactly exciting for most photographers. I get excited about it, but I'm a pretty big nerd, and I think it's interesting. But I know that most photographers probably don't think it's very interesting, and what you really want is to get more clients from your website. That's the only reason that you're actually interested in search engine optimization, is because you want to get more business, because you're having a hard time keeping a steady flow of clients, or it's costing you a lot of money and you like to have that organic traffic coming in. Chris says, is it too early for a question? And the answer is no, of course not. You can ask questions anytime. I may hold some questions until the end, but if we have time, whenever it comes in, or if it's relevant to what I'm talking about, then I will certainly try to answer it right away. So I'm just going to check one more time over here in the group to make sure everything is working. And okay, so we're good. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with these slides. Chris, go ahead and ask your question, and I may be able to go ahead and answer that right now. But let me go ahead and get the slides up on the screen and make sure that's working. Okay, so if you can see the slides on the screen, if you see where it says why you should forget about SEO in 2017, just let me know over there in the comments. Say, yes, I see that, and you can still hear me. If all that's working, we'll go ahead and get going. Chris's question, alt tags for non-photo images. Do I need alt tags on all images, even non-photo ones? Karen, thanks. It's working for you. That's perfect. Okay, so Chris, I am actually going to go ahead and answer that question for you right now, because that's kind of a technical SEO question. And once I get started, I'm going to not be talking so much about technical SEO, except for in a few of the sections, but I'm still happy to answer SEO questions, of course. So the answer to that is yes, you should have alt text on pretty much any image. There are exceptions whenever there are decorative images that you may just say something like image in the alt text, or some people say you don't need to put it at all. It's kind of just, there are debates on like how strict you need to be about those things. It's not critical for your SEO to have alt text on every image. Like, you're not going to really get penalized for not having alt text on like some kind of border image or divider image or something like that. But if it's a logo, you could easily say, Corey Potter photographer logo, because someone might be searching for your logo, or that logo might show up whenever Google is trying to put up an info card or something like that. And so context to images like that. Also, sometimes people are using navigation images, and the navigation can be important for reading. So Justin says not seeing the live video. So right now it's just a image, and it's about to, I'm about to go on to the next slide here. So let's go ahead and get started with this. I'll answer more questions in the end. Why you should forget about SEO in 2017, and then the subtitle is kind of what you should be thinking about instead. And the truth is, I don't want you to forget about ranking in search engines, but I want you to forget about optimizing your website for search engines. And okay, it might be a little bit of just a title to disrupt everyone and think, wait, he always talks about SEO. Why is he saying forget about SEO? That was definitely one of my intentions here. But at the same time, what I'm realizing, and let me see if I can get my slides working here, is that you're probably asking the wrong question. And what I'm finding is that a lot of people are coming to me and asking about these little details of search engine optimization, and will Google like it if I do this? And even just, for example, the question that Chris just asked about alt text on non-photo images. It's actually a good question. Like, for an SEO, it's something that's relevant and comes up in the topics, but it's not necessarily the kind of question that I want you to be asking first. And that's what I mean when I say forget about SEO in 2017. I'm going to talk to you today about the mindset that I want you to have instead, and the things that you should be thinking about before you start thinking about those little things, so that you can make sure you're on the right track. And these are the things that are going to propel your website forward no matter what, no matter if it's just for search engines, or if, wherever you're sharing your site, however people are finding your site. These concepts that we're going to talk about today are what is going to cause you to be able to get more clients from your website. All right, hang on one second. Okay, back. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So the question I want you to ask, instead of all these little tedious questions about SEO and the little technical details on whether you should have this kind of schema markup, or exactly where you should put what kind of text on your page, all of those things can be important. But what I want you to ask first is, how can I make my website the most relevant result for the client that I want to attract? So for the person that you want to find your website, you have to think about what questions they're going to be asking, what needs that they have, what desires that they have, and how your website can be the most relevant result. I want you to remember that, because relevance is probably the #1 most important thing about search engine optimization. But it's also the thing that drives people to connect with a website. If the website is not relevant to the question that they have in their mind, then they leave. And so relevance is the key word that I want you to think about when you think about search engine optimization, but also when you think about optimizing your website for humans. So the first thing, we're going to kind of talk about 5 big areas today. And the first thing is, I want you to get laser focused. So what is your site's purpose? And the thing is, I want you to realize that people who are looking at your website, your visitor, they're on a mission. They have a goal that they're trying to accomplish. So they may be trying to see pictures of a friend or a family member because they came from a social link or an email link. So if you, let's say you photographed a wedding and then you put the pictures up on your blog, and then you sent that blog out on social media, on your Facebook page, or on Instagram, you put a link, something like that. Someone found that and they saw that that was their friend or family member and they wanted to look at pictures. That's their goal when they come to your site. So your purpose in that situation is to allow people to look at photos, but maybe they need to hire a photographer, and either they searched in Google, or they use another search engine, or they use a directory or something like that, and they found your site because of that search or because they were recommended. Or maybe they're just looking for ideas or inspiration. So they could be planning a wedding or a family photo shoot because they want to have Christmas cards or something like that. And their mission right now, whenever they go to Google, is to find ideas. They don't want to hire a photographer. Their intent is not to hire. Notice that I highlighted that intent because that's going to be a key thing that we talk about later too. But they're just looking for ideas. And so in that situation, your visitor is on a mission to find ideas, but not on a mission to hire someone. But whenever someone is on a mission to hire a photographer, I want you to think about this. To them, it's a to-do list item. It's something that they need to cross off their list, and they are there to complete a task. And often as photographers, I think we get caught up in this idea of like romanticizing what we do and making it so that like everyone is going to be inspired by our work and just like fall in love with us and all this stuff. And there are cases where that happens, and especially with weddings, I think that can be really important. And other types of photography as well. There is definitely an emotional aspect, but often people are just trying to complete a task. I need a wedding photographer to take pictures at my wedding because I want pictures from my wedding. I need a photographer because I'm having a newborn baby and I want to make sure that I capture that. I just need a photographer to take pictures. And often that's the mindset that people are in. So let's talk about first impressions. So the first impression actually starts before someone comes to your website. That's something that's important to think about. And remember earlier, I talked about the fact that they could come from social media, they could come from an email, they could come from a search engine. So let's say they come from a Google search. Well, the first impression of your website is that title, that meta description, and that URL that show up. Can you see my mouse whenever I do this? Somebody let me know if it shows you when I'm like highlighting this or like pointing this out with my mouse. I'm kind of circling here where it says Ablaze Photography. It'll come up on my screen in a second. It looks like my mouse pointer is there. Okay. So the title and the meta description and this URL, that is the first impression whenever someone is doing a search. And we're going to come back to that again in a second, but I just want you to think about the fact that that's the first impression someone has of your website. A social link, there's a preview image, there is potentially a social profile. On Instagram, you might have a feed, and there's already impression of whether or not your work is consistent and what your style is like, and your branding is already showing through on your Facebook page when they look at your cover photo and your logo. So there's already impression before they ever click on your site. And I put this little screenshot over here because you can actually go to the Facebook debugger. If you haven't ever used that, it's a very handy tool. You can just go to Google and type in Facebook debugger, and it's usually the first link. And what you can do is just put in any link on your website, whether that be a blog post or your homepage, and it'll show you exactly what it's going to look like based on the open graph tags that you have whenever you share that on social media. And if you look right here, this is an example from my website where I'm not utilizing everything here. Like if you look at the description, it's Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, Google. It's like some social sharing icons that I have on the page. I haven't specified a meta description for this post apparently, or an OG description. And I also have a title that's not optimized. It's too long and it repeats itself. And so the first impression is an important one on social media as well. All right, so let's talk about words. So this is something that often photographers um, really give me a hard time on. So I'm just looking over here at the comments really quick. Carl says it's very blurry, and yes, you can change it. Thanks, Jared, for jumping in there and saying that. On YouTube, you can go on there to the little gear icon and change it up to 720. So it's blurry if you have low signal or if you don't have good streaming bandwidth where you are. So you may have to watch again whenever you have better bandwidth if it's too blurry for you. Okay, so words are very important, and I know that photographers often fight me on this, and they say, no, I don't want to have words. I just want my pictures to speak for themselves. I want it to be pretty, and I don't want it to be cluttered. But words are important, and one of the reasons that words are important is because you need to be able to deliver on the promise that you make in that first impression. So think about this. Whenever someone sees this snippet in a search engine or on social media or a link in an email, there's usually a promise associated with it. And that first impression is telling people, hey, I'm going to do this for you whenever you click on this link. Here's what you can expect whenever you click on this link. So in this case, I highlighted some words here. I mean, wedding photographers is obvious, so I'm expecting this to be a site about wedding photographers who focus on connection, emotions, and moments between lovers. So I'm expecting to see a very, maybe romantic, and I'm expecting to see moments. I'm not expecting to see stiff and pose. I'm not expecting to see boring. I'm expecting to see something that shows emotion. And then it says, click to see real Colombia weddings. So the promise is that you're going to see weddings that happen in Colombia, that are real weddings, not styled shoots or, weddings all over the country or anything like that. And so whenever someone clicks on that, then I need to deliver on all of those promises. I need people to actually see those things. And you might think, well, people aren't thinking all that. And the fact is, this happens subconsciously, and we don't even notice it, but it is happening in our minds. We are building up an expectation before we ever go to a website. And the words that we use in the first impression, in these snippets and these previews, those words matter. So the other thing is you need to use words that your visitors are using. So one thing you can do is you can look for themes in search. So I'm not going to get too far. This is not an SEO training, although we are going to talk about how to optimize your site for humans and therefore optimize your site for search engines. So it really is SEO. I'm still not going to get into all of the specifics of keyword research and how you can find all the keywords, but I'm going to give you a few tips here and there. And if you have questions about that, you can leave them over in the comments. I am kind of keeping an eye on the questions. I can see them. Dawn, I saw that your screen keeps buffering, and I think it's probably a connection issue. If everyone else is able to see it, I think that's probably what it is. You may have to rewatch that part later if you're having problems. Okay, so using words that your visitors use, how can you know exactly what people are typing? Well, I'm going to give you a quick SEO tip. It's very simple. There are a couple of really easy formulas that people are using when they're looking for photographers, and it's extremely simple, and it works over and over and over. And it's usually the type of photography that you do, photographers in the city or location that you're doing work. So for me, wedding photographers in Columbia, South Carolina, Columbia, SC. Or it might be, another popular formula is city or location, specialty photographers. So for me, Columbia SC wedding photographers or Columbia wedding photographers. And so there are variations of those, and you can get into the fine details of which one has the most search volume and whether that matters or not. And it does matter, in my opinion. But for right now, I want you to just look for the clues that are already out there. So if you go to Google and you search for example, Columbia SC wedding photographers, what are the first page results using in their titles? Whenever you see those top 10 results, what words are they using in their titles? And you can also look at auto suggest. So that's what competitors means. Like what are they using? Auto suggest, start typing it in, and Google will give you a bunch of things that people commonly type. You can see that people use affordable in Google. I mean, they're suggesting it. They don't use cheap necessarily. Maybe they do, but Google is suggesting affordable. So that's how you can find words that people are using. Let's go ahead and go on to the next thing. And then keyword tools, obviously, like KW Finder is one of my favorites. Moz is probably my favorite, but really it's hard to use it if you don't have the premium version. Both of these cost money to use the full version, but they have free versions that you can try out and still get some really valuable information. All right, so next up is to make it obvious. What do you want people to do next? So remember, we're getting laser focused. That's the theme here in this section. And what we want to do with our website is we want to focus on getting people to take a specific action. What do you want people to do next? And you can see this screenshot is just an example of at the end of my article about where to do engagement sessions in Columbia, South Carolina. Well, I say, are you ready to book a session? Like what you see here, we'd love to work with you to make your engagement a time you'll never forget. Get in touch today to inquire about limited availability for your session. Our best dates go fast. And so the thing that I want people to do after looking at a long post of engagement session ideas is to book an engagement session, right? And if they don't want to do that, I also gave them the option, hey, if you know someone who's engaged, you're not an engaged person, but you're looking at this post because you know someone who is, share this post with them. And I gave them that action as well, but make it very clear. Don't just leave it to be, and I have more about that in a minute. And then back it up. So a lot of people, they're saying, it's funny because I do a lot of usability testing and I watch people, and just pausing for a second here, let me know if this is working for you in the comments. If you're still seeing everything okay, I just had like several people drop out, so I'm not sure if I'm having connection issues or if I'm just boring. If this is really boring, let me know and I'll keep moving faster. But if you're liking this, just let me know. Either hit the thumb up button or leave me a comment that says, yes, I'm hearing this, and yes, keep going. But anyway, so back it up with words. I do a lot of usability testing and watching people use websites. And one of the things that is interesting is that I had a friend sitting with me the other day, and he was looking at a website and I was looking at a website. We were both looking at them at the same website at the same time, and I was asking some basic questions that I do in my site reviews. And I was like, so what is this website about? And he was having a hard time figuring out what it was about, and I got it immediately because the words at the top of the page told you what the website was about, but he was looking for pictures to tell what the website was about. And the thing is, you have to use both because people are looking for information in different ways. And so you need to back up your pictures with words, and you need to back up your words with pictures. And Paula just says that she just tried the word search for her area and the highest suggestion is budget. Well, we're going to talk about that again in a little bit. So pay attention because we're going to talk about that too. So back up pictures with words, back up words with pictures. I was going to say something else about that, but I got distracted. That's one of the reasons I try to keep comments till the end, but y'all keep them coming. Keep asking the questions. I like that. That's why this is live. It's not supposed to be 100% polished and perfect. We're just going to hang out here and talk about what we can do to get more clients from our websites. So the ends of pages are important. I kind of already told you about that. Like at the end of my post about engagement session, especially a really long post, that post has hundreds of pictures on it, and you get to the end of it, or maybe not hundreds, dozens, and you get to the end of it, and you'd have to scroll all the way back up to the top. But I want to make sure that there's something at the bottom where they can do the next thing that I want them to do. And honestly, it's easier for them to click that contact button than it is for them to scroll back to the top. And so you want to make sure that you're taking advantage of the end of the pages to make it obvious what you want people to do next. Okay, so kind of to sum up this section of really laser focused, I want you to focus on fulfilling the need of your visitor. Anything on your site that doesn't have a purpose can be removed. And that doesn't mean that it has to, have like a very, very specific and direct purpose. Like sometimes you're going to use things that have like a subtle purpose. Maybe you have some things that can give you authority, like maybe links that necessarily want someone to click that. It's not necessarily leading them directly to the next step, but it does it does have a purpose because it's enforcing or kind of reinforcing the idea that you are an authority. There's things like that that you can keep on your page. But the idea is that when you get to every little step should have a purpose. And the purpose of each step should probably be to move people to the next step. And so whenever you're writing your title and meta description for a search engine, the purpose of that title and meta description is to get someone to click. That's it. That's the purpose. Whenever they click, the point of the first thing that comes up on your screen, at the top of your screen, is to get people to do the next thing that you want them to do. Move to the next section of your website, or to evoke a certain emotion, or to get them to take an action, to contact you. If your first section isn't getting them to move to the second section, then they're going to leave. If it's not getting them to contact you or click another link, then they're going to leave. So you got to make sure that every section moves people to the next section. Every piece of your website has a purpose. All right, so the next big thing, we're only on number 2. Let's see what time it is. It's 1:26. All right, so I'm gonna have to kind of go through these maybe a little bit faster. All right, Elaine says, interesting real world tips. I've started using MouseFlow recently. Surprised how easy things really need to be for visitors. I love that, Elaine, and I would love to hear more about that, by the way. If you want to post over in the Fuel Your Photos group about that sometime, I would really love to hear more about that. I've done some mouse tracking in the past as well, and it's one of those things, just like you're saying, things need to be extremely easy, and that is a great segue into mobile. So on one of the most recent Google Webmaster Office Hours, John Mueller, who's kind of like the new Matt Cutts, he's kind of the face of Google's questions, like people who have questions about how Google works. He's kind of the guy that answers them most openly in the most public forum. And what he said when someone asked, what is the most important thing people can be thinking about for optimizing their sites for Google in 2017, and he said mobile. And like, for him to say it like that, it's kind of like whenever someone's talking about real estate, what's important? Location. What he's saying is like, that's the only important thing right now. And that's not actually true. But the thing is, he was making it very stressed because it's extremely important. So let's talk about mobile. This is one of my favorite sections, by the way, because it's new and people are kind of saying the same old things. And I'm like, no, that's not what's really important. Let's talk about what's important for mobile optimization, not just for search engines, but also for people. So first of all, phones are different. They're different than a computer. The mindset is different. The phones are different. The device is a different device. First of all, there's less space. Obviously, you don't have all this room on the screen to put all of these things. And this line right here, standing out, is less important than function. And that is more true than ever before with mobile. And so just from talking to photographers and working on setting up websites and working on optimizing, I hear people say over and over, I want my website to stand out. I want it to be unique. I want it to be interesting or different. And the truth of the matter is, you don't necessarily want your website to be different. You want your website to work. And on mobile, that's extremely important. So the screenshot that you see there is an example of a gallery on my homepage of my website. You can see it. It's like a masonry grid, and it's nice. Images are large, and there's some that are different sizes, and it's kind of visually stimulating in that way. But then on mobile, what happens is it just stacks into a row of images, and there's really no way to get around that, because if they were in that pretty grid or whatever, they'd be too small. You wouldn't be able to see them. And so the point is, on phones, since the space is smaller, the function becomes more important than I'm not going to say than the design, because design is more than just like layout. Design is the whole design of the process, I think. But it's more important than being pretty. Scrolling is in. Okay, so I have for a very long time kind of not really loved one-page websites. And I have to say, over the past few months, I've started coming around to liking them more than I ever have before. I'm not going to say they're the best for search engines yet, but I am going to say that I believe that scrolling it puts up less resistance than clicking on a phone. So you're more likely to scroll down than you are to click a link, because clicking a link takes more work than scrolling, because scrolling is natural and instinctive. I think that's an important thing to notice, is that if it takes more work, people are less likely to do it. And often on phones, links are even hidden. We'll talk about that again in a second. So larger fonts are required. This is another trend that I'm seeing with photographers, is all these tiny little thin fonts on their websites because they think it's pretty. And I'm not going to disagree. It can be very pretty. Maybe it's because they don't like words on their website, and so smaller means that they don't see the words so much. But the fact is, on a phone, the words need to be larger, especially when you need to click on them. So if you need to click on a link on a phone and the font is size 8, you're not going to, or 8 point or 8 pixels or whatever, you're not going to be able to click that link because your thumb is going to be too large to tap it. And so sometimes you'll even see that on the mobile tests on Google. You'll see like tap targets are too small or too close together. And that's because sometimes the fonts are too small or the spacing between the fonts is too small. So on mobile, larger fonts are important. Portrait orientation. So think about this. Most people are looking at their phone in portrait orientation. That's different. On most desktop computers and laptops, the screen is horizontal, and you have room to put multiple images side by side. Again, this kind of goes back to that less space thing, but it's also just a whole different idea of kind of your orientation. Often, if you have a landscape photo, it doesn't fit well on a phone. It's tiny. You can't see it anymore because it has to be so short to fit on the screen that it just doesn't look right. And so that's something you have to think about with phones. But not only is the phone different as far as the device itself, but the intent is different. So the way that people use their phones and the reason that they're using their phones and their mindset that they're in when they're using their phone is different than it is on a desktop. First of all, they could be in a hurry. A lot of times people are using their phone, unfortunately, when they're driving or whenever they are in the store or walking down the sidewalk. Whatever it is, people are using their phones on the go, and they may be looking for information quickly. So how often have you used your phone and needed to find the address for the closest gas station or the closest restaurant or whatever it is? That's the kind of mindset that people are in when they're using their phones, is, hey, I need information quickly. They may be distracted, so they could be watching TV or they may be at work. I mean, I have to admit, the majority of the time that I'm using my phone, I'm doing something else as well. I'm probably watching TV, sitting on the couch, or I'm, hanging out, talking with people. Even I know that's terrible. I need to get away from doing that. But the fact is, I'm usually distracted when I'm using my phone. And also, you need specific information. So on a phone, often you are looking to call someone. You are looking for very direct pieces of information like availability or pricing, whereas you might on a desktop just kind of be looking to explore and kind of feel things out. On phone, often you're looking for even more of that to-do mentality that I mentioned earlier. It's a to-do list. It's something that people need to check off their list. So here's an example. I hope you can see this screenshot. I know it may be blurry on some of your phones. You'll be able to watch this again later, hopefully, and you can zoom in on this or increase the quality. But this design company had a header on their desktop site, and I saw this, and then I was just curious to see what their site looked like on mobile. But you can see here the links on desktop, what we do, our work, about, blog, contact, start a project. But then when you look at their mobile site, these links all drop down under this hamburger menu, and you get a different menu: call us, find us, start a project. Because those are the things that people are trying to do on a phone. They either want to call you, they want to find out where you are, or they want to go ahead and get started. And I saw this after I had already written this slide. I was like, yes, that is a perfect example of exactly what I wanted to convey to people, that the information that people are trying to find on mobile is often different than when they're on desktop. And you can see that they agree here in this. It's a very renowned design company, so I think they know what they're doing. So what are you hiding? This is critical for mobile right now, especially with the different website platforms for photographers. I'm seeing this a lot with show it sites, And a lot of WordPress themes are doing this, and sometimes Squarespace, although not as much, honestly. But a lot of them are hiding content on mobile. So I wrote down here resize versus remove. So whenever you talk about responsive design, you talk about making sure that the content adapts to the size of the screen. Well, one way to do that is to take content that doesn't really fit on a mobile phone and just remove it. But the other way is to resize it. And sometimes that's not scaling it down directly, but changing the size and proportion of it completely. But one thing that I do want to note here is not to remove important elements like key text on your page. I've seen people who will have like a main header of their page that says, hey, I'm a wedding photographer in Columbia, South Carolina. And then on the mobile, it's not there. They hid it because they didn't like how it looked on mobile. I'm like, well, you're taking away the most important indicator of what this page is about on mobile. We'll talk about that in a second too. I'm saying that a lot. I hope I come back to all the things. If I don't, call me out in the comments and ask me about it again. On mobile, there are no rollovers. There's no rollover state. I mean, there kind of is. If you click on something, like there's a soft click, and then I know some people have those fancy phones. Jared, you're here, I think. Have those phones where you can like hover over it a little bit and it does roll over and before you touch it. But for the most part, there's no rollover state on mobile. So if you have a lot of rollovers that lead people as far as navigation. So often people will have like 3 images on their homepage and it's just pictures, but when you roll over it with your mouse, it'll say like read the blog or about me or something like that. But what you have to realize is if that's the way you're doing it and you don't have kind of a fallback plan, when you're on a phone, people won't see what that says. They won't see that read the blog or about me, and they'll just say 3 pictures and they won't know that they're able to click them. So you really have to think about hiding things like that. And then links, whenever people have been talking about this mobile first index and the things that you need to be thinking about, I'm going to try not to go into this too much, but just know that you should not be hiding important links on your site. And some people are doing that. So there might be a link to another section of your site, an important page on your site, and you just take it away all the way in mobile. And that's probably the worst thing you can do. And the people at Google have been like, look, it's probably not going to make that much of a difference for most sites whenever we do this mobile first index, unless you're doing things like removing links on mobile. And so if you have questions about that, ask me. If you're not doing it, if all the content that's on your desktop site is also on your mobile site, don't worry about it. But this is just something I wanted you to be aware of. Okay, so what can you do? First of all, test it on your phone. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who say, oh yeah, my site's responsive. And I say, well, what does it look like on your phone? I don't know, I haven't looked at it on my phone. I'm like, what? You haven't even looked at your website on your phone? And I'm sometimes guilty of the same thing. I don't check every new blog post or every new page on my phone. You should definitely be testing. Jared said he had to get rid of that phone. It caught on fire. Yeah. Okay. So you should definitely be testing your website on your phone, on other people's phones. Test it on an iPhone, test it on Samsung, test it on whatever other types of phones you can find, and watch other people use your site on their phone, because sometimes what you should be doing, and so it doesn't seem like it's hard, but other people on a phone might be like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. And that's really tricky. A lot of times people think that, oh, this is actually just saw an example of this, and I kind of hope she doesn't watch this video. She probably won't, but Melissa Jill just put out a new website for her newborn photography. And if you look at it on mobile, it has it's called an FAB, a floating action button. And it's a little button in the top, and it's a little circle, and it says MJ for Melissa Jill. But when you click on that, it opens up the menu. Well, the problem is that's not standard UX. Like, people don't know that they're supposed to click on a little button that has her initials on it. The 3 lines, the hamburger menu, is pretty standard UX these days. And so, people are going to usually know that by now. A few years ago, that was a question. Like, could you actually use a hamburger menu? Do people actually know they should click it? Now it's almost standard everywhere. So thinking about how people actually use those things and not just taking it for granted, like not assuming that people know that that's your menu button, but actually watching them and making sure that they can get to it. And by the way, test that with people like your grandmother or your 7-year-old child, or make sure it's extremely obvious. Use mobile calls to action. So this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, where people want to call you. So let people call you on their phone, because all they have to do is click a button and they've already got their phone in their hand and they can just call you. That's an immediate connection. But also simple forms. I'm seeing a lot of people who are putting forms on their website with like 20 fields, and they ask all these questions about every single person. And it's like, I don't need to know all of that right now. And if I'm on a phone and I see a form that's got 20 fields, I'm going to be like, this is too much work. And sometimes another thing, going back to UX, user experience, and UI, user interface, people are trending towards making these forms that are pretty, especially on Show It. I've seen this over and over on Show It recently, and I don't like it. People are making these forms that like don't have form boxes. They have like lines or some other random pretty thing. And the fact is, your forms need to look like forms because people expect them to act like forms. And if you're on a phone, it needs to be simple. 3, 4, 5 fields at the most. Just get the information you need and go. That's going to make your conversion much higher on mobile. Okay, so talking again about mobile first, Google is looking at hundreds of factors to decide where to rank your site. People always say like 200 factors. It's more than 200. It's a lot of factors. It will now be looking at your site as a mobile user, Google as a mobile user, the Google mobile crawler, to get many of these factors, but not all. They can still look at the desktop version. But first, they're going to be looking as a mobile user. So you need to think about what your mobile site looks like and of elements that are included on your mobile site, and are the most important things about your site on that mobile version so that a mobile user could find them, because those are the elements that Google is going to be using to rank your site first. Right now, that's the way that it's going. All right, let's move on. Let's see, we have a couple questions or comments here. Chris says, is it important then to have a website theme where you can create a mobile version independently of your regular site? And my answer to that is I prefer to use a responsive theme where all of the content from the desktop version also appears on the mobile version. But sometimes you have to strip away. And often what I like to think about, and what's really kind of the trend in design right now, is thinking mobile first. So build your website for mobile users. And then if you're going to add anything, for a desktop user, it's probably not going to be extremely important. So get everything that's important on your mobile site first, and then look at it on desktop and say, oh, I can probably add some stuff here. It would just make it a little bit prettier, add to the experience if someone's using desktop. But I don't think you need to necessarily, I think pretty much any theme these days allows you to work on both versions. Not any, most modern themes. So any of the big WordPress themes like Divi, or any of the builders like Elementor or Beaver Builder, they have these options where you can check what you want it to look like on different devices. And Squarespace not quite as much, but I know Show It has both options. But sometimes the freedom to remove things also causes people to remove things they shouldn't. All right, let's go on to the next thing. Be consistent. I'm going to try to kind of go through this a little bit quicker because we're already getting into 45 minutes here. And I said that last time, it took me a long time. More than just frequency. Consistency is often thought about as, hey, I need to post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But it's not just about frequency. It's also about having a consistent message. So this goes back to thinking about that first impression and tying that through your site. So whenever they see that your site is about connection and moments between lovers, well, whenever they get to your site, that needs to be the same message. You need to believe in connection, and you need to kind of push that message throughout the entire site. Consistent work. So obviously, I think this goes without saying, but then again, when I look at a lot of sites, when I review them, I see that people are including like a large variety of things on their homepage, and then you go to a different page and it's like a completely different style, and you'd be surprised how many I see like that. And the fact is, whenever they see your social media profile or whatever that first impression is, and whenever they come to your site on the homepage, when they click to another page, they need to feel like they're in the same place with the same photographer and the work is consistent throughout. Consistent navigation, this is a big deal. A lot of people have navigation, especially if you're on like Zenfolio or something like that. The navigation is like there's 4 different versions of the menu depending on which kind of page you're on, and that is terrible. You want the menu of your site, the navigation, to be exactly the same on every page if possible. I usually try to give a little bit of leniency to having a different menu or navigation on the home page at first, and then it maybe like set, like for example, you have a menu that's at the bottom of the screen, and as you scroll it kind of sticks to the top, but on every other page it's at the top. If you're doing that kind of thing, it's probably fine. But if you have like a left side navigation on the home page and a across the top navigation on the about page, and then your navigation is gone completely on your blog, that's not good. And I see very, very frequently that people have a completely different navigation on their blog than they have on their homepage. And so you want the navigation to stay consistent so that people are not disoriented and they know how to get around your site. And then a consistent name, address, and phone number. So another thing that I see very commonly with photographers is that you'll go to a search and you'll find a photographer and they'll have their business name listed there. You look at their Facebook page and their business name is listed just a little bit differently. You go to their website and their business name is listed a third way, and you look at their logo and it's a completely different name. And I'm like, what in the world is happening here? And this, it might seem obvious to all of you watching, but the fact is people are missing this all the time. And you need to have a consistent business name. You need to have an address and a phone number that are consistent across the internet. That's important for search engines. But also frequency. So it's not just about frequency, but consistency is also about frequency. So you need to have regular updates. And that can mean that your dates are current. So a lot of times what I see is that people have like a pricing guide and it was from 2015 and it still says 2015 prices and they haven't updated that yet. And that's not good. Google can see that and say, wait, this is really old content that should be updated that isn't. And so your regular pages and content need to stay current. And then you need to make sure you don't have any broken links or images or anything like that. But also blog posts, having regular blog posts like once a week or twice a week or even twice a month, it just shows that you're busy and popular and that things are happening in your business. So it is important to have some frequency with that. I'm going to go back and answer. I see some questions coming over there. We'll get to that in just a minute. Reviews and links, I'm just gonna put those both up there at the same time so we can kind of get through this quickly. Search engines do look at the rate at which you are receiving reviews and links. So we call this velocity, but I'm trying not to use big words. No, it's not actually a big word, but as it pertains to search engines, what we're really talking about is, are you getting like one review every week because you're doing a wedding every week and that person is reviewing you? Or did you do like some type of promotion and you got 100 reviews in a day and you don't get another review for a year? Same kind of thing with links. Are people linking to you because they constantly find your content and they are, they're sharing it all over the place because they just love it all the time? Or is it like you had one really popular post, got a lot of links, and then you have nothing else that's popular? And so they are looking for things to be consistently good and shareable and getting reviews that are good across the board consistently. So actually this answers Carl's question. He just asked, how much frequency with blogs are we talking? Once a month, or is there a happy spot? And so this is kind of a good answer to that. It isn't so important to be on an exact schedule, but it is important not to fall into the typical photographer schedule of blogging for 2 months and then neglecting your site for the next 10. I mean, this is very, very typical, like probably 70% of the sites that I look at. I know it sounds like a lot, but I look at a lot of photography websites and not all of them are very good. And what happens is we have these winter months or these off-season months where we we have time to blog all the stuff that we've done, and we put up a whole bunch of blog posts, and then we get busy. And in that busy season, we don't have time to blog, and we wait months before blogging again. That kind of thing is bad. Whether you blog like exactly on the same day or the same time of day, or once a week or twice a week or once every other week or whatever, it's not quite as important as making sure that you are constantly updating your site and having something fresh on your site. So my recommendation is at least once a week. If you can hit that, more is usually better. I've seen some people who have blogged every single day, and that kind of activity really makes your site take off. And those people are getting tens of thousands of visits a month because in, and it's so engaging once they get there. But that's not realistic for most people, and so I usually tell people once a week. Okay, so speaking of blog posts, or actually, let me go back. We have a couple questions. Chance says, I'm looking for a new WordPress theme. Aside from responsive themes, is there anything else I should keep in mind for mobile? So the other big thing that comes to mind immediately is just speed. There are some themes out there that are very bloated, and on mobile, they are really slow, or they add in a bunch of little features that are using JavaScript, or they're very image heavy and don't have an option to serve smaller images on mobile, or there's things like that. So speed is kind of the summary of that. I'm not going to get into all the technical things, but I can answer that better if you go ask in the Facebook group. So yes, there are some things to think about like that. Mostly it's going to be, is it responsive, as in does all the content adapt, but also is it usable? So I've also seen a lot of themes that have these really, really ugly menus on mobile. I'm like, no one would ever click that, or no one's going to know how to use this. It doesn't work. It's not easy to tap. It's not easy to read. Things like that are very important. So usability is kind of key. I would look at the theme demo and make sure that you're able to use it well on mobile. Dawn asked, I bought the PV6 theme and it came with a navigation vertical on the homepage and horizontal everywhere else. And you change that. I think I looked at your site recently, Dawn, and yeah, pretty sure that's one of the ones that I reviewed, and you change that. Yeah, and I think I said to you on yours that it's not the worst thing ever because it was pretty obvious, but that is something that I recommend changing. And then Jessica says, does Google see links shared on Facebook? Maybe. It depends on where it's shared on Facebook. Google can crawl and index certain parts of Facebook, but typically not very much. Can it see the stuff? Maybe, probably. Certain things are hidden from Google or no followed by Facebook, but for the most part, the links that you share on Facebook are not helping for search engine optimization. One other question here. I post more frequently, have more content, more backlinks, older website, more social followers, better on-page SEO, and better load time, and still page 4 for my keyword. What am I missing? That is a good time for me to plug my website review and say, go over to fuelyourphotos.com/reviews and fill out that information, and I will check it out and give you some feedback and see if I see anything. Sometimes I can see it right off the bat. Oh, here's what you're missing. Sometimes it's really just hard to figure that out, and it takes really digging deep to get the answers. But I'd love to talk more about that. There's no way I can know right now without actually looking at it, but post that question in the Facebook group or go and fill out the review form, and I will definitely check it out for you when I get to it. Okay, so back to the slides. Don't just publish, promote. This is so important for blogging and for any content that you put on your website. Build it and they will ignore it. And the fact is, it's not just as easy as publishing and people like flocking to your website. There's too much noise out there. There's just so many photographers. And so many good photographers. That's the hard thing. Like, there's so many great photographers out there posting amazing pictures all the time. Even whenever I'm out there looking for photographers because I want to be inspired, I get drowned in the noise of how many amazing photographers I can find. And I don't have time to look at all their blog posts because there's just too many. And blog posts are just not that exciting to share usually, especially the way that photographers typically do them, where it's like a title and a bunch of images. And like, that's nice, but it's not really that, it's not that compelling to share. There are easier ways to share photos these days, like with Google Photos or like with Shootproof or Pixieset or something like that, where it's easy to scroll through it and kind of navigate. And on a blog post, sometimes it's not. It's just like scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and it's just not that exciting. So I want you to incentivize the share. So make it their first exposure to the images. So this is something that can really drive traffic to your site and make it engaging and get more shares. If you're doing weddings where people are going to be getting all of the files. Now, if you're doing in-person sales and you don't want people to see anything before they come in and see your photos, I don't necessarily recommend this, but I do weddings and all of my packages include digital files. I'm not saying that's the best way to do it. And I know some people are like, no, I can't believe you do that, but that's how I do it. And that works for my business. And if you're doing something like that, then you can use your blog post to let people see their images for the first time. Put up 10 or 15 or 30 images from the wedding, the day after the wedding or very soon after the wedding, and then share that blog post with the couple and say, hey, here's your pictures. Here's some pictures from your wedding. Share this if you want. Every time I've done that, they've like posted it immediately, said all these exciting things, got dozens or hundreds of comments in some cases. Whereas if I send all their pictures to them in a gallery and wait a couple months and then post their blog post later, they're like, I've already seen my pictures. I've already shared them with everyone. I'm not going to post this again just to advertise for you. So you got to get it up quickly on your blog and make that their first exposure. Go back here. Other things you can do, like embedding a video, give it something special. Use a slideshow or something like that. Tell a captivating story, evoke emotion. I've even seen some photographers recently going back to having some music. And I'm not saying make music automatically play on your website. Please, please, please do not hear me say that. But I've seen some where you can like click at the top if you want to play music while you're watching this, or they have a slideshow where it plays music whenever they click play. And that music might really kind of bring back some emotion into watching those images. And whenever, let's say, a bride and groom look at their wedding pictures and they have that emotion because of the music or because of the story that you told and the way that you told it, they're gonna be like, wow, that's exactly how I want people to picture my wedding, and they're gonna share it because of the way that you told the story. Okay, before you push publish, I want you to ask, and by the way, I'm stealing this from Rand Fishkin in his most recent Whiteboard Friday. He said this almost exactly. He said, before you push publish, I want you to ask, who will amplify this and why? If you aren't publishing content that people want to see and share, why are you publishing it anyway? And the fact is, most people don't care, but someone does. So you have people who care about your work, and you need to figure out who they are. If you post your link to your blog post on Facebook and you're not getting very much reach, the fact is, for the most part, most of your followers probably don't care about those pictures just for the reasons that I mentioned before. There's so much noise. And even if they're really good, there's also dozens of other good photographers out there sharing photos all the time. They just don't really care that much about going to see it unless it's them in the photo. So if it's your actual client, of course they care about seeing it. If it is family and friends of those people in the photos, they care about looking. And maybe there's vendors involved. If it's a wedding, or even if it's like a newborn shoot and you have like a headband or the wrap or something like that, those people who are involved might be interested in showing off the work that they did in those photos. So some people care about it. And these are the people who are going to amplify your content. These are the people who are going to share it, and they're going to talk about it, and they're going to put it out there for you. They're going to promote for you. Promotion is hard work. Okay, but a lot of my motto in telling people, like, what should you do to get better search engine results? Well, I want you to do the hard stuff. Do the stuff that no one else is willing to do. And that's how you're going to get ahead in the end. Create systems. So use things like 2 Bright Lights to submit your work to different blogs to get links. Create systems on social media. If you look on the Fuel Your Photos blog, I have this post about like the things that Caitlin James does after a wedding on social media. And she has like this very precise system that she follows every time to get it out there and get people looking at it. And then email templates, just letting people know, hey, I would love if you shared this on social media. You have to ask for people to share and promote for you. And then don't give up. Not every post is going to be a hit, but you got to keep throwing stuff out there. And don't get disappointed whenever you do a wedding that you thought was really amazing, or a session that you thought was going to be the best one yet, and get all these likes and it doesn't get very many, because sometimes that happens, and you just keep going. You just keep moving, because you're going to have some that are hits. All right, and this is the last one of the 5 topics, and we're right at an hour, so I'm going to go on through this. It's one of my favorites because I'm a nerd, but this is talking a little bit more about the technical side of how search engines work. So how machines think. And you might have seen some of this in the preview. What basically happens with an algorithm, with these machines that are starting to learn on their own, is that they analyze certain points. Remember earlier when I said that Google is looking at hundreds of factors? Well, they're analyzing those points. Those points are the factors. Then they're making a guess about what those factors mean, and the confidence in their guess. All right, so here's that picture that I shared in the Facebook group, and I said, this is the key to understanding the future of search engines. And I want to kind of break this down for you and what's happening in this picture. I love this stuff. So this is the Google image recognition little tool that you can use, and they have several different things that they can look at, but one of them is facial and emotion analysis. And so what's happening here, you can't see all of it, I kind of scroll down, but you can still see the confidence scores. So the confidence scores are the most important part of this. And you can see the first one is for phase 1, and the second one is for phase 2. And Ashley, my wife, is phase 1, and I'm phase 2 on the left. And what they're doing is they're looking at all these different points on the image. You can see all the little dots, and those are the things that it drew. And if you think about it, what are the points of the face that it can look at to determine emotion? It's going to look at the eyebrows. It's going to look at the eyes. How wide open are the eyes? It's going to look at the lips. Are they, are the ends of the lips up or down? Are they, what are the cheekbones doing? You can see the dots on the cheeks, and it can tell the width. It can tell the eyebrows. It's got points on all the eyebrows. Obviously, that's an important factor. Are the brows up or down or scrunched, or what's going on with the nose? And so it's measuring all those things and using all of those points to make a decision on what's happening in this photo. And you can see, if you look at, if I were to scroll up on this little image, it would show you that joy is very likely on both of these. But the confidence of phase 1 is higher than the confidence of phase 2. So what it did is it analyzed the points. It made a guess. It said both of these people are probably joyful, but we're very confident, 99% sure that this face is joyful, and we're only 91% sure that this face is joyful. So let's just imagine that someone was looking in Google for images of a joyful face, and these were 2 separate images. Which one of these would rank higher in the search engine? It would be this one. It would be phase 1, because it has a higher confidence score. The algorithm is more sure that this is joyful than this one. Both would show up because it knows that both are very likely the kind of result that you're looking for, but it's more confident this is the result. And what makes that so? Look, she's smiling with her teeth. I'm just smiling with my lips. She looks happier than I look in this picture, and you can see it. And as a human, that's instinctive for you. You understand emotion instinctively, but machines don't understand emotion instinctively. And the same thing is true about intent and the things that we look at on web pages and things like this. Sorry, I got distracted. Carl said, probably because the teeth are showing, and the TJ, I'm not sure your name, the TJ, sorry, says, got to smile harder, Corey. I know it's true. I'm smiling now. So, but we understand websites and what they mean better than computers understand them. So we are optimizing for humans, but we also have to understand the way that robots and machines are assessing you. What points are they looking at? So how should we increase certainty? All right, so I'm just going to give you a couple of examples. So the question for the machine is this a local service business? Is this a local service business? I think machines are better than that. They don't talk like that anymore. All right, so what kind of things would they be looking for? What kind of points on the face, would they be assessing to see if it's a local business? They're gonna look for a street address. They're gonna look for area code and the phone number. They're gonna look for a contact page because people need to contact local service businesses. They're gonna be looking for mentions of local places. So if you're a local photographer, you probably have done work at local parks or venues, and you probably mentioned those on your site. You have links from other local websites, and you're found in local directories. These are some things they may analyze. How to increase certainty? Is this a photographer? So does this website have a gallery or portfolio? Are there alt text on the images that say, hey, this is the type of this is a portrait session or a wedding? What type of photographer is this? Are they found in photography directories, and do they have photo credits across the web? Is this website popular? And they're looking at different points for this kind of thing. Is it shared a lot on social media? Does it have links from a lot of other websites? Is it mentioned on many other websites, even without links? Does it have lots of comments in the blog? And some people are going to ask, well, are comments important? Because I'm not sure if they are. Well, they could be. They could be a sign of popularity. It's just one point on the face, though. And do they get lots of clicks in the search engine? So if they do rank on the first page, are they getting any clicks? Because if not, maybe they don't deserve to be on the first page. These are all things that Google can use to see if a website is popular. And this one is also important. What do most people want? And we talked about this earlier when we talked about budget and cheap and affordable. And what Google wants to do is they want to figure out the average visitor intent. What's the average person wanting to do on a website like this? And this is why cheap photographers often end up at the top of search engines, because the average person wants to find a cheap photographer on Google. That's just the truth. Like, more than 50% of people are looking for someone cheap, because there's a lot of weddings happening out there. There's a lot of people trying to get pictures taken out there that don't necessarily want to invest. And Google knows that, and they put those things at the top quite often. Click-through rate matters, and it's harder to dethrone the top positions. I'm not going to get into this too much right now because it's too technical and we're running out of time. We're already over, but I'll be happy to answer more questions about that kind of thing. I just feel like I'm getting a little too technical for this type of webinar. So really, this is kind of my concluding thought. In 2017, I want you to think about humans first. So we just talked about all those things, how machines think, and the way that they may analyze your website. But I want you to think about the way that a human is going to look at your website first, because Google is going to keep trying to make its algorithms think more like humans. And so the more you can optimize for humans, the better you are going to do in the long run with search engine optimization. And optimizing for humans really starts with refining your message, figuring out who it is that you want to look at your website and what their desires are. It starts with planning and measuring and making sure that you have the right tools. It starts with knowing who you are and what your business is about. And it starts with, researching what people are doing and thinking and how they're typing. And so here at the end of this, I'm going to go back and answer any questions. Let me see if there's any right away. Chris says, you mentioned Thumbtack. Waste of time or useful resource? I think that there are photographers out there who are making money using Thumbtack. I've seen some people who have some really smart ways that they've utilized Thumbtack. For most people who are trying to do a little bit more high-end work, it's not going to pay off in most cases. But I've heard of people making lots of money. I have an article if I can find it, I'll share it later, but I saw an article about a photographer who used Thumbtack and like ended up booking this really big job, and it was all because they bid on something on Thumbtack first. So still those things can happen, but in general, you're gonna get a bunch of low ballers who don't want to pay any money. So if that's not your thing, it's probably not quite as helpful. Okay, so what I want to do really quick is I want to tell you about the Fuel Your Photos membership, which is brand new. And I promised that this was not going to be like a big sales pitch or anything like that. But all of this came from me starting to develop the new content for the membership. And as I was doing all of that, I was realizing, you know what, I can't just make this about search engine optimization. That's kind of been the theme that I've been talking about for the past year. And it's not just about search engines. And I found that out whenever I was developing the content for the course. And so what I've done is I've started to make a brand new course that is all about starting by optimizing for humans. It starts with tools and setup and thinking about like, how are we going to measure any of this? But then it starts to ask things like, you know, knowing yourself. What kind of questions do you need to ask to figure out what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it and what you need to say to your clients? Knowing your clients, knowing exactly who your ideal client is and how to speak to them and creating avatars, and then knowing your business. So writing down the information that you're going to be sharing on your site and getting benchmarks and setting goals, and then how to do keyword research. That's just the beginning. So right now in the membership, the first 4 weeks are already available. It's meant to be done in 12 weeks. And each one of these things has like spreadsheets that go along with it so that you can follow along and fill out all of the information. And then what we'll do in the second and third units are we'll take all of this information that we learn about our business and then actually implement it, changes and fixes. We're going to do the big changes on the website. We are going to, you know, every little thing that you might need to change, we're going to talk about how you do those changes in a very simple step-by-step process. And then we're going to, in Unit 3, talk about workflows. So things like blogging and link building and promotion. Like when I said, don't just publish, promote. That's kind of what Unit 3 is all about. How do you get your site out there so that people are coming to it on a regular basis? So, you know, first of all, it's about planning, and then it's about building or fixing, and then it's about promoting and pushing it out there. And so that's kind of the first part. If you want to, you know, you can see here, I'm just going to bring one of these up and show you like what you're looking at. We'll look at the keyword research. So the lessons are a mixture of video and text. So you'll have video lesson that will walk you through exactly what you need to do. You'll have some text that explain things, some resources, objectives that tell you exactly what you need to do on this lesson, and then that kind of tracks your progress. But then also you have things like this keyword research worksheet that I've developed so that you get to fill out these things like your city. So let's say you're in, oops, it's loading, Charlotte, or you know, your second location is, oh, it's not loading. Anyway, the point is when you fill this out, it's going to give you a whole bunch of seed keywords, and then the video walks you through what to do with those and how to find the volume and how to find how competitive they are. And basically it's just making this extremely easy so that all you have to do is answer a couple of questions and this takes you to the rest. Now this is just a very early version of this. I have lots of plans for how to make these tools even easier and more intuitive so that it does the whole process for you, and all you have to do is just type in a few words at the beginning. That's hopefully coming later this year. One of my big goals with the membership has been learning more about programming, and I really become really interested in software development, and so I am hoping to use some of these things to develop tools for photographers as well, and those will be available to all of my members. So another thing that I want to mention here, other than the membership, is that I'm also doing in-depth website audits. Now this audit worksheet that you're seeing on the screen right now is going to be available for the members, and what will happen is each of these items on the worksheet will have a video that corresponds with it that shows you exactly how to check for it and how to fix it. And if you want to do all of that yourself, you can. but I'm also offering a service where I will do this audit for you. And it will tell you exactly the things that you need to fix. And then you can go along and do them yourself, or pay someone to implement them, or pay me to implement them, however you'd like. But this is a service that I'm also offering. And so right now on the webinar and for the next few days or weeks or whatever it is, I'm trying not to make this like a big pitchy, like, hey, and for the next 15 minutes, you can get this for only $9.99. Like I'm trying to make everything in my business move away from gimmicks and sales and all of that stuff, because I want it to be always honest and trustworthy and transparent. But if you want to check this out, I have a special deal for you. Just because it's brand new and I really want to get this out there. I'll go to this. One thing I want to show you also while I've got this open. Oh no, I think I lost it. Other thing that I really love about this membership, probably the most valuable thing, I believe I forgot to mention it, is that we have a private discussion forum. And so I'm moving away from just a Facebook group, and I'm moving into a forum where you can ask any questions you want anytime. I'll give you detailed answers. And other people from the community can give feedback. And it's brand new right now, but I'm really excited about where this is going. It's not your grandma's forum from 2002. This is like really new and a lot more like social media. Hey, there's Jared, he's in there. And you can see his profile and the things that he has talked about and so far. And there's a lot of I'm really excited about this. If I want to find out about Google Analytics, I can start typing in analytics. Oh wait, this is just on Jared, but like if I'm here, I start typing in Google Analytics, it's going to show me all the topics about Google Analytics and show me exactly what I want to know. Okay, so if you're interested in that, I have two deals for you. So you can go to fuelyourphotos.com/membership, and it just gives you a quick summary. It's not like a long detailed sales page. If you want to join right now, the regular price is going to be eventually, probably in the next month or so, it's going to be $40 per month or $400 per year, however you want to do it. But right now, I'm doing a 50% off coupon, and you just go here to the checkout page and use the discount code Forget SEO for this webinar. You apply that, and you get 50% off as long as you stay a member. So it's $20 a month, and you get access to all of the course, all of the content that comes out in the future, the forums, and all the tools that I develop in the future. It's going to be really cool in the future, and I just don't want to. The reason I'm doing the price decrease is not, I'm doing a sale so I can get a lot of people on the webinar and drive sales. I'm trying to do this because I want to get people in there and answer questions and make it as valuable as I can before I jack the price up to what it's going to be, because I know it's going to be awesome once we get some people in there. So I would love for you to check it out. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you don't like it, just tell me and I will give you your money back. You don't have to prove you did the worksheets or anything like that. Just if you don't like it, that's fine. Just check it out. I think you'll like it. I know you'll like it because I put a lot of work into making this awesome. So there's still some little bugs and just rough around the edges, but we're going to make it great together. I'd love to have you in there. So let's go ahead and see if there's any questions that are coming in here, and I will be happy to answer any questions that you have about SEO, anything I talked about today in the webinar, websites, in general, anything like that. I would love to answer them. Oh, wait. One more thing really quickly. I also have a special offer. So I'm going to give that 50% offer out to everyone in the Facebook group. I may not give this one out. I might, I'm not sure, but that SEO audit that I was talking about, normally it's $200 for me to do the audit for you. You get like an hour-long video and that spreadsheet completely filled out for you, including a site crawl and several other things. And the 1-month membership would be $240. That's normally $440, and I'm doing that for $300 if you want that. You don't have to use a coupon code on that. It's only live for right now. I'm probably going to get rid of that soon. I can only take about 20 of those. So once those sell out, they'll be gone until I can open up more. So there's just an offer if you're interested in that. If you have questions, just send me an email. I'd be happy to answer. There's my email address on here. Remember, fuelyourphotos.com/membership. And I'll be happy to answer your questions, or you can hit me up on Facebook in the group and send me a personal message, whatever. I'm pretty accessible. You can get to me any way you want. So let's go ahead and answer questions. I'm going to switch back over to my face so we can see, so you can see me. Okay, hopefully you can see me now. I'm going to go back through here and see what I can answer for you. All right, so Jared mentioned that Thumbtack's a waste of time, borderline scam, in his opinion. Jared has some good stories about Thumbtack, and I think he's, hey, you can see the crib. I am in my office slash new baby's room, so fancy over here. Let's see here. Thanks, Jared. Kind of my experience. Thanks for confirming. Do you do that for Show It websites? If you're talking about the audit, I do offer that for Show It sites. I have quite a bit of experience with Show It 5. If it's Show It desktop, maybe not. But if it's Show It 5, I have some good experience there and would be happy to audit that for you. And I can probably give you some really great tips. I kind of know the little things about Show It 5 that need to be optimized for search engines after having to deal with them so much. There's some tricky little things, and I can definitely help you with that. Let's see. Any other questions? And there's still quite a few of you on here. What questions do you have about things that we've talked about? I'm scrolling back up here to see if there's anything else. See if there's any questions on the in the Facebook group. Let's see here. And there's a little bit of a delay, so I'm kind of waiting for it to come through. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them now. If you don't, that's pretty much the end. I'd love for you to check out the membership. Check out the free Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and type in Feel Your Photos. Come in there and ask questions anytime. I'm always there to help. Dawn says, I need some help with my PP6 site. Will you be able to help me? So let me put it like this. For the membership, my goal is to help anyone who needs help as much as I can, especially whenever their intention is to kind of do it on their own. I do have some services that I will offer an hourly rate or maybe some package rates in the future. I haven't quite developed those yet, but if you need help with ProPhoto 6, I probably can help you. Send me an email and I will let you know what I can do. If I can't, I can direct you to the people who can help you for sure. People like Melissa Love and Victor Isaac and Benjamin Turner, and there's several people that I can recommend. If I can't do it, I probably can, so just let me know. Chris, thanks for tuning in. And Chance says, bitch away. Thanks, man. Katie says, what's the most effective way to promote blog posts? That's a really great question, Katie. I think that it is going to come back to the thing that I said earlier that I stole from Rand Fishkin, where he said, who are the people who are going to amplify this content and why? So making your content more sticky and shareable, and then figuring out the people who are going to want to share it, and then why they would want to share it, and then asking them to share it because of that reason. So there's a kind of like a psychological idea, or I don't know, it's not really psychological. It's kind of like a little mental trick that I learned from my friend Jared, not Jared in here, but another Jared. And it's called the QBR method. It's question, because, reason. So anytime you ask someone to do something for you, you ask them a question and you say because, and you give them a reason. So you would say to your client even, could you share this post on social media because, and then you would say, I would love to, I don't know, just think of any reason. The thing with the QBR study was that it doesn't actually matter what the reason is. Just giving people a reason makes it more likely for them to say yes to your question. And so that's kind of probably the most effective way to promote a blog post, is to think about who would want to promote this and why, and then asking them to promote it for that reason. And it might even be that you submit your site to a wedding blog or something like that, And you have to think about which wedding blog would want this post and why. And then whenever you submit it to them, you appeal to that reason that you think it would be a good fit for their audience. So those are the kind of things I want you to think about, is like, who would want to share this and why? Because you sharing it is always going to be less effective than other people sharing it for you because they believe in it. Let's go back here and see what other questions. Heather says, are you familiar with Good Gallery sites? I am familiar with Good Gallery to some extent. I've worked on 3 or 4 Good Gallery sites. Good Gallery has some interesting SEO factors, or some interesting SEO features that I really like, and also some things that I don't like. And I try to be cautious about what I say about platforms because of relationships, but there are things I can do, and I'd be happy to look at it for you. So always feel free to go over to fuelyourphotos.com/reviews and fill that out, and I'd be happy to look at it for free and tell you what I think about it. But definitely also, if you're in the membership, if you have any questions anytime about your Good Gallery site, you can post that in the forum, and I would be happy to answer that and look into it for you there. Thanks for coming, catching the moments. And Dawn is going to collect your partner from work. Pop over to membership tonight. Looking forward to seeing you there. All right, so I think I'm going to go ahead and close this out. I'll make a thread in the Facebook group for anyone who wants to jump over there and continue the conversation. If you have questions, just bring them over to the group and reply to that thread, or just ask questions in the group anytime, and I'll be happy to answer them. Thanks everyone for coming. It's been really fun, and I may try to do this again in the future. All right, see y'all later.